What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is Arrow Season 5, Episode 11, Second Chances. So, I made a bit of a mistake last week, or whenever I watched 2 weeks ago episode. I made the mistake of, I thought that Talia was going to be, or was the new girl that we saw at the very end doing her canary cry. I thought they were the same person, they looked very similar. So, I thought that whole scene where Oliver saw Laurel under the hood when it was actually Talia, I thought it was all like just making us feel stupid by putting out there, oh, this is obviously going to be the next Laurel, guys. You know, that's the whole point of why did he see Laurel's face? Well, there you go. Even the stupidest of the stupid could figure that out. But as this episode kept going, I started to realize, oh, wait, they're not actually the same woman. Talia is somebody completely different. It's a new woman who Tina Bolin, we find out her real name is Dinah Drake. Oh, Dinah Laurel Lance. Oh, Dinah. And as I actually found out by looking up who she is, apparently in the comics she was actually Laurel's mother. So, kind of weird. But yeah, so in the comics she was Dinah Drake Lance. And she was the original Black Canary before she passed it on to Laurel. I think. I kind of just skimmed it over to see who she was. But the problem that I have with this is, one, I was sitting there going throughout the entire episode. I'm like, so if they're not the same person, then why did I see Laurel under her mat or under the hood? Like, why did they show us that? And I'm going through, and all of a sudden we find out there's a revenge plot where she's trying to kill this guy that killed her partner slash lover. And so I'm just like, so what's? And as I started getting to the end, I started to realize, wait a minute, she's gonna kill the guy, right? Like, she's gonna have a chance to redeem herself, but she's gonna kill him instead, not take the chance, and that's gonna leave the door open for Talia to come in as the new Laurel, right? Right? Yeah, that's what they're going for. Sure enough, we get to that scene, she kills the guy, I'm like, there you go. So now, Talia can come in, she can take the mantle as the next Black Canary, except without the canary cry. And all of a sudden, Tina shows up at the mayor's office and starts talking to Oliver and says, you know what, I am going to take that second chance on Queen. So, you're telling me that she is going to be the next Laurel. So what the hell was the point of showing us Laurel's face under the hood? Like, I just don't get it. I don't understand, what does that scene mean anymore? You know, like, it made sense if Talia was supposed to be the next Black Canary. But, as they've clearly shown in this episode, Dinah's supposed to be the next Black Canary. Like, they've set it up perfectly to where she's the next Black Canary. So what's the point? Why did they show us Laurel? What does that scene mean anymore? Who knows? I don't know. I really don't. You know, maybe it's going to mean something later on. Maybe it'll be explained. Maybe they're going to end up, like, hooking up as she's training him in the flashbacks. Maybe that's the point, is like a second chance at love for him or something. I don't know. It's so stupid. It really is. You know, like, there are some good things about this episode here and there, but for the most part, it's still kind of stupid. You still got all these scenes that just feel so forced. You've got Wild Dog and Renee and Curtis. They're having these conversations about, oh, this team is for second chances, and Curtis is still doing his really awkward humor where he makes a joke and then doesn't shut up afterwards, so he just makes it feel really weird and awkward. And then there's this moment where they're talking about the team. It's like, oh, this is a team for second chances. And then for some reason they have this moment. Curtis is doing something where they can locate the bad guy they're searching for, and he starts talking about how, you know, the team that is there, kind of crazy. You know, like, they're kind of messed up in the head. They're not all good people. And all of a sudden Renee's just like, maybe you're right. Maybe we are all crazy on this team. I'm like, what is this for again? And it doesn't go anywhere. That's the thing. Like, if this went somewhere, if all of a sudden they started talking about it and Renee started realizing that he's been kind of a dick since the beginning of this whole thing, then it would mean something. Then it would be like, okay, so it's a moment of self-reflection. But he says that line, and then instantly it's gone, and we're moving on. So, I just don't understand why they're throwing these random scenes in. And there's another random thing they throw in where Felicity's trying to hack into the NSA, trying to get this case file that will help prove John's innocence because the general who wants to convict him, there's apparently some sort of case that's been building against him that's gone now. So she's trying to look for it in the NSA, can't find it. This other hacker contacts her and says, I'll give you the information. So they meet, and it's this young girl who apparently was inspired by Felicity to become a hacktivist. And then she gives her this information on top of a ton of information called Pandora's box, I'm guessing. And so it's kind of like this information that could spread just all of this chaos. Like, where is this coming from? You know, like, it would be one thing if she did this and Felicity just kind of brushed it off, like, oh, yeah, sure. And she takes it from her thinking, I'm just going to hide this information, make sure it doesn't get out. But she actually opens it and she's hiding it from everybody. It makes it look like she actually wants to spread all this chaos. Like, where is this coming from? The Felicity from back then is gone now. We've already seen that. We've already seen the fact that she's changed a lot since then. And just all of a sudden she meets this girl who was inspired by her, and that's enough for her to go, you know what? She's right. I should be spreading chaos even though I've been helping the Green Arrow for the past few... Yeah, that makes sense. I've done that so many times, I think I've gone numb right there. Like, it doesn't even hurt anymore. Between Supergirl and Arrow, I've done that so many times. It's ridiculous. And Bones, if you want to count other shows outside of this Arrowverse. I don't get it. I don't get why these writers can't keep their characters where they're supposed to be. You know, one moment you have a character who, it seems like they're starting to figure some stuff out. The next episode, completely gone. You have this character who, from the beginning of the show, has been this upright, just perfect human being who never makes any sort of, like, poor judgment calls, and then all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, she starts, I'm gonna completely go against anything Oliver says, because all of a sudden I don't trust him. All of a sudden I think I'm better than him. Oh, somebody gives me this information that I can use from my old hacktivist days that are completely gone? No, let's have them resurface out of nowhere. No explanation, no build-up, just bam, on a dime, and all of a sudden she's evil, she wants to spread chaos. I don't get it. Like, this show needs to have more focus, because right now, there's no focus at all. You know, even the fact that, where's Prometheus in all of this? Where's the main storyline? Where's Vigilante that showed up for one episode and is gone? Where's any of this going? You know, it feels like it's just sort of whatever they feel like doing this episode. Oh, we want to find the next Laurel? Okay, let's have an episode about that. Well, the entire team can't do that, so let's just throw in this random plot line where Felicity meets this girl and she's going to give some information that she can use to spread chaos. Yeah, let's just throw all of this in there out of nowhere, doesn't connect to anything, doesn't really connect to the main storyline. It's going to make sense somehow. It doesn't. It doesn't connect, it's not focused, and it's really frustrating. Because I don't want more storylines thrown in. We already have enough. Between the flashback, between Prometheus, between Vigilante, Laurel, all of that stuff, it feels like we have enough to go on. We don't need to start adding more storylines. The new Laurel. We add in Felicity now. We add in whatever's going on with John and this general guy. It's all just too much. It's so cluttered and unfocused that you can't keep giving focus where it deserves, because you have to focus on everything else. If you don't focus on stuff for one episode, all of a sudden they're lost. Oh, what happened? Oh, it's been a few episodes since we talked about Prometheus, so I have no clue. I don't understand why this show continues to just make poor choices. It would be one thing if it was a constant thing where it was just every single episode, poor choice, poor choice, poor choice. But the truth of the matter is, there have been some good episodes this season. There have been some episodes that made me go, you know what, this show is still pretty good. But then there are episodes like this where it's just like out of nowhere, we're just on something completely different. And it feels like the writers have changed for this episode. And I shouldn't feel like that. I should feel like every single episode is another Arrow episode. That's how I feel about The Flash. That's how I feel about Legends of Tomorrow. Both of those shows are doing a very good job of keeping the story focused, of keeping it to where, okay, I'm following. You know, we're not on some tangent over here. No, they're focused. Arrow just loves to go on tangents, and that's the biggest problem I have with this. So, after that rant, let's talk about some of the other things that are good or bad. One of the things that I do think works from time to time is I do like the possible budding bromance between Renee and Curtis. Well, some of their dialogue is completely stupid, and I've said before, Curtis's humor does not fit. Sometimes they do have these moments where they're making fun of each other or they're joking at each other, and sometimes that is funny. Sometimes it does work in the context of the show. But there's still too many moments, like I said, where you've got Curtis's awkward humor, or you've got just a line out of nowhere that doesn't really connect to anything, that it's still not good enough. But I like what they're doing with it at times, so hopefully they can start to learn from that. And, just like in NCIS, where with Tony gone, obviously if you don't watch it, you don't know what I'm talking about, but they brought in this new agent, and he and McGee have really just blossomed a bromance that is really working right now, and it's just really funny to watch them together. So I'm hoping that they can learn to do that with Renee and Curtis in this show, because that could possibly be one of the better things about the new team. One of the things that I also think work is I do like Talia. I like the demeanor that she's brought to the show. She definitely does feel like the Talia al Ghul I know from the Batman universe. But of course, along with that does come the fact that it's another Batman pretty much rip-off. Like I've talked about before how much this show has ripped off Batman. It's pretty much they wanted to do Batman, but they couldn't get the rights to Batman, so instead they said, you know what, we're going to take a similar character and then make his story just like Batman. And that's pretty much what it is. I mean, they've got their own Oracle, they've got their own, I guess you could say, Alfred, in what's his face, John. He's kind of like the butler in a way. But there's just so many tie-ins to Batman that it's kind of a rip-off at some points. And having Talia in there as a possible love interest as well just feels more of a rip-off. But she is an interesting character, so I hope they utilize her effectively. I like the metahuman aspect of this episode as well. I mean, just the guy who ends up being the bad guy. I like the fact that all of a sudden, oh crap, he's a metahuman, and his powers were not illustrated, animated, I guess, edited. But the visual effects on it were really cool. Just whenever he did it, you could see just how it made them feel. The hallway behind them stretches out, and you could see what it was doing to them. I like how they did that. It was very well done. And even like the canary cry from this new girl, she is pretty cool to watch. It's pretty cool to see the effects done on it. So that part of it was well done, and I like the metahuman aspect of it, just because this show, while I don't think it needs a ton of metahumans. I think the metahuman aspect works better on The Flash because that's what that show feels like. The metahuman aspect in Arrow has kind of been limited to Damien Dark at this point. There have been a couple that have popped up from time to time. But one of the best things about the first and second season was how just really grounded in reality it felt. I mean, obviously the fight scenes were one of the things that felt most realistic about it, but it felt like this could actually happen, whereas now, with the metahumans involved, it feels less like a realistic show. So I don't mind the metahumans, but I do think it takes away from what made the first two seasons probably the best things about the show so far. So you gotta take with the good and the bad. I understand it is changing the show, and I'm trying to go along with that. I'm trying to understand, okay, this is a change. It's necessary to get the show moving. It's just still one of those little nagging things that bugs me. On to some other things that I don't think work. I don't think the whole Rory and Felicity not aspect, but the kind of relationship. It's not a relationship, obviously, but I just don't think they work well together. Just as characters. I think Rory is a good character, and I do like what they've done with him. I like having him on the team because he's the most interesting, definitely, of them because of his powers, and just his backstory is very interesting. But with Felicity, it's always felt sort of awkward, and even whenever we found out Felicity was responsible, or whenever he found out Felicity was responsible for his family's death, ever since then things have just gotten really awkward, and it doesn't feel natural. It just there are certain characters that work well together, and they work off of each other very well. Like I said, Renee and Curtis could be two of those characters, but Rory and Felicity are not. Like they're just the lines that Rory has are funny, but next to Felicity, it just doesn't flow as well, I think. And I can't really think of any specific examples, but that's what I was thinking as that scene with them was going on. I'm just like, they don't work well together. The other thing that I didn't really like was the inconsistency of Curtis. Just like I've said, with Curtis, I'm not a huge fan of him just because it feels like they were trying to do something with his character that didn't fit with his personality. Like he's not a fighter, so why are they trying to make him a fighter? So last episode, when Renee was like, "This is what you're good at," I'm like, "Thank you." That works. It's good. But then in this episode, once again, whenever they first encounter Tina, it's like he's in his costume and he's out there ready to fight. I'm like, wait, I thought we just said he's not a fighter. And then in the next shot where they're going to find her, he's in the van again working the tech stuff. I'm like, wait a minute. Is he going to be in the van or out of the van? Like, decide. You can't have both. You can't decide one moment, okay, he's out in the field, and then the next, he's in the van working tech stuff. You have to pick one or the other. So they kind of, the final fight in the episode where they're fighting the main bad guy and all of his henchmen, they did have him in the van. So it's almost like they did decide for that scene, okay, he's not much of a fighter, so we're not going to risk him. We're going to keep him in the van. But I still feel like there are going to be scenes where all of a sudden he's out in the field with them, and I'm just going to be confused. Like, why is he out there? We've already said he's not that type of person. So, yeah, that just a little thing, but it did irk me a little bit, just the fact that they're not keeping it very consistent. And then the final thing that just sort of bugged me about this all is the fact that Oliver was just kind of okay with Tina/Dinah, her just killing the guy and then coming to him for help. Like it didn't feel right. It didn't feel like it fit with Oliver. When she did that, I'm thinking, okay, she's not going to be on the team then. And then she shows up, and Oliver's just like, I'm here to help you. I'm here to give you a second chance. Like, you already gave her an option for a second chance, and then all of a sudden she decides what she did wasn't. I don't know. It just feels like, once again, the character motivations don't fit. She makes a decision to kill the guy. She's like, I'm done. And then all of a sudden she decides, you know what? That wasn't right. I feel empty inside. So I am going to come work with you. It's just, why can't a character make a decision and that's it? Like they've made their decision. They're not going to turn back on it. But instead, I feel like any decision made in this show, any character decisions made in this show, could instantly be turned around in a moment. I never feel like anything is set in stone with a character. Like with Felicity, the fact that she dumped Oliver last season because of everything that happened, the fact that she was kind of upset with them about what happened with Billy, I feel like in one episode it could go from that to all of a sudden they're back together again, because that's just how flimsy these characters are with their decisions. They could decide in a second that they're deciding to turn everything around, their entire thinking just completely rewritten. And I don't like that. I don't want to feel like anything can be rewritten in a second. I want to feel like these characters are strong characters that aren't going to go back on what they believe. And I just don't feel that. I don't feel like that's what the show does. So, yeah, that's the final thing. It's more of a gripe about the show as a whole than just this episode, but it is perfectly represented by the fact that Dinah's just like, oh yeah, I want to come help now. So going forward, obviously with Dinah now on the team, they're going to have their next canary. There's probably going to be some growing issues, just like I said, with the team back at the beginning of the season. You're going to have those moments where she's not going to want to listen to Oliver, and then there's going to be some arguments and blah, 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 and just, I'm not looking forward to it. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What did you like and dislike about this episode? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Arrow reviews, and I'll see you at the next one. Peace out.